welcome back. Divine loving blessings to all of you and those that you love. So this week's subject of spiritually awkward is coming from Nevaeh in Turkey, who writes, "What's up with everybody becoming more judgmental after the awakening process?" Well, that is a very good question and definitely one that I can expand on. Okay, so first of all, nobody ever by any means has the right to judge anybody else. Now, there is a thing called using better judgment. There is a thing called having good judgment or a good head on your shoulders. That's normal. Having good judgment or better judgment is being able to weigh the scales to say, okay, what's this like on this side? Is this more positive or is this more negative, and why? The pros and cons of things to come up with a better, more aligned decision. However, judgmental actually means that after you've come to your conclusion, you now have an opinion about it, especially in terms of somebody else involved. So if you're sitting there and you see something that's going on, because through the awakening process, people are having more realizations of things. They're noticing things about other people, about themselves and their old behaviors, about the world and what's going on in it. And they're starting to wake up and seeing a lot of things that are wrong out there. And, that's only normal for all of this, is to start realizing, where we've gone wrong for so long, here as a species, and to correct it and to inspire others to do so as well. So as you're waking up, you're going to start noticing things that are wrong out there. And that's more along the lines of being based upon moral compass, which everybody has. Everybody knows what's right and what's wrong. There's always going to be that part inside of you that tells you this doesn't feel right. It's a part of the human nature. So if you are waking up and you're going through the process and you start noticing things, and it usually starts right there around the immediate family because you're in the home with them all the time. Most of the time through awakening, you are isolating a lot. So you're going to start noticing things about your family, and you're going to say to yourself, wait a minute, this doesn't seem right. And then you're going to weigh out the pros and the cons. It's when you turn around and you say, well, I don't like that person anymore. They're a bad person because of this. That's when it becomes judgmental. It's when you're developing an opinion that's negative about what you've come to the realization to. You can say that the behavior is negative. You can say the situation is negative. But when you're directing it at the person especially, that's when it becomes wrong. Now, some people say, well, everybody has their own perspective about what's right or wrong, Alura. And that may be true. But going along with what I said just a couple moments ago, that, basically everybody knows what's right and wrong. And basically everybody gets that instinct when something isn't right. But if you sit there and you criticize another person based on that realization, now you're becoming judgmental, and that's just not cool. We have to always come at others in a place of unconditional love. You have to realize through this awakening process that, number one, it's okay to have realizations about things. It's okay to see things. It really is. But you have to realize that the people that are acting out certain behaviors or doing certain things are a victim of a victim. They're doing what they've been taught by somebody else who was taught by somebody else who's been taught to do those things. And it's not really their fault. So you have to come at them with compassion and sympathy. The other thing is that, yes, there are people out there that know what they're doing is wrong and they just don't care. Okay, so they're on another side of the spectrum. It's not up to us to force them to want to change. You keep it in your mind, okay, that's something that I don't want to participate in. But if they are, that's their personal business. You can't determine whether that person's a bad person or not because you can't see into their heart. What if that person was offered a chance to change? You don't know if they would take it or not. And if they would, then that they had a good heart all along. They just didn't have the opportunity. But you don't know that. You don't see them in that situation. So you can't judge unless you're a soul reader and you can see, a little bit more deeply. But even we as soul readers can't say whether someone's a bad person or a good person because everybody's had different experiences that have affected them differently. So going through the awakening process, yes, you may find that a lot of people are becoming more judgmental, and they don't really have a right to. You were there at one time, you made mistakes at one time. The only thing that you can analyze is the situation and what's going on and come to your own determination for yourself about it. but not about the person. We have to love. We do. Think about the heavens. They give everybody chances. They love everybody the same. And everybody gets their chance to change. They really do. And that's the way you got to look at it too. I remember a lot of people who, when all of this first started, had said, hey, that person's negative. They're not on my vibration. I don't want to associate with them. And I thought, wow, what closed-minded behavior. It's by associating with those people, by showing them love and letting them witness your change, that they start to get the seeds implanted within them to maybe later on want to change. It may not be right now, but they may see how things have changed you, and then later on say, wow, that path did wonders for that individual. I want that for myself. And it's showing the unconditional love and support that they'll remember that, wow, they were there for me even when they were in a better place. Look at how their life has changed. And those are the things that win them over without a word. You can entice people to this path just through your own experience, through them witnessing it. You don't have to lecture them or talk to them, which ends up, in arguments. And it is, a usual thing that happens. A lot of families end up getting into arguments, and that's why a lot of people that are entering into this spiritual path, their families are against it because they see them, you shouldn't be doing that. I spiritually learned that that's wrong. And then the family starts to think, well, who does this person think they are judging me? Because it does come off judgmental. You have to be accepting and maybe talk to them in a loving way. For an example, there was one time that my mother was making breakfast for my father. I needed her to make breakfast for my son. She was making breakfast anyway. So I said, hey, Mom, I'm busy with the baby. Could you help me out? Throw the breakfast in for my son. Since you are cooking anyway, I'll get the dishes after. No, you do it. I'm busy. I have a ton of things. Anybody else could have said, wow, that was really ignorant. She was there anyway. She could have done it. That's the wrong outlook. And saying that to her definitely would have created, an issue. She would have thought, who is she to say anything to me? You can't come off that way. It's being judgmental. You have to see from everybody's perspective. And people fail to do that all the time. You can have the realization, but you have to see the other side too. You have to. So looking at it from her side, yes, I needed the help. Yes, I was in a situation with my hands full. But I realized, wait a minute, she's got a lot on her plate too. And even though she is there, doing it already, she may be having anxiety of taking the extra couple minutes and just wants to hurry up and get started on the other things that she has. And understanding that, I just went ahead and did what I had to do, and everybody was peaceful. And later on, she saw that, and she came back and she said, hey, Allie, I'm sorry. I probably could have made the breakfast. I realized now I was just very nervous. And I realized I had been right, and, everything was smooth and happy between all of us. So you have to see from the other person's perspective. Put yourself in their shoes. Always. That is unconditional love, when you can relate to somebody and show them compassion and sympathy. So no, awakening should never give you the right to be judgmental. You can use better judgment. You can have the realization of the situation and what's going on, but never judge the person. Always come from that heart center in regards to everyone that you interact with. Thanks for watching.